because we talk about freight tech, it's the new buzzword, and it used to be fintech, but it's fascinating to see that it took a pandemic and everyone actually caring about the supply chain. Now we see all this VC money, the funding coming in, and like, oh, maybe we need to improve our supply chain instead of using the Excel spreadsheet. I have horror stories, by the way, of when somebody would use the shared Excel spreadsheet and someone would delete something or they would change the view, and then you're like, oh crap. And that was the TMS. Like the entire TMS was funny. I think in a software term, you have a specialized environment where you keep your data separate from the common people, and then you have the front end. We didn't have that. So I accidentally messed up a few rows one time, and I was like, the company data. So, looking at kind of switching gears a little bit as well, is it something that's very difficult for a lot of these small carriers? I know that it takes a dev team, it takes a lot of work just to design these things. Is this part of the reason why we haven't seen a lot of attention in the TMS space, is it does take a lot of work to get that ball rolling?
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons is that while on the one hand, the concept is fairly straightforward to just build something like an Excel spreadsheet, except more automated. But in practice, of course, this is very challenging to do in a reliable and consistent way, because our system is not just some random social media application. Like, we can't lose data. It has to be 100% reliable, like a banking system. It has to manage countless integrations with other systems who may themselves be unreliable. And so while the concept is simple, putting it into practice, putting it to use for logistics is a very difficult challenge. And I personally think that's one of the reasons why this hasn't been done. I think a lot of companies have attempted. There's some large trucking companies. Once you're a large trucking company, once you have 100 trucks and more, you have some serious cash. And a lot of these companies have tried building software on their own, and they've had some amount of success. The problem is that when you reach a certain scale, then there's going to be limitations as to what you can do as a software company in terms of building technology. There's only certain kinds of engineers that you might be able to attract, and you're always going to be limited by the fact that you're not really a technology company. And so I think that's certainly one of the reasons. This is a lot more difficult than it seems. And specifically, coming up with the features, that's one thing, and that is a big part of our competitive advantage, is how we listen to our customers, how we try to empathize with them. But the other factor is just the fundamentals of software engineering, and how do you operate a complex system? How do you offer a reliable service day in and day out? And those are the roadblocks that have a lot of companies struggling. And I've seen this outside of freight tech. I've seen a lot of these tech-enabled companies, once they have around 20 engineers, they come to a grinding halt. They can't build anything new without breaking half the system. They're always fighting fires. And so it is an engineering challenge to do that. And even though technology has become more commoditized, and we're leveraging the fact that the cloud is out there, that all these tools and libraries are out there, but it still takes quite a bit of skill to put it all together in a reliable way.
I remember happening that so much. Ava, you're saying as well, it's so hard. From your experience, Ava, what are your thoughts as well?
Well, I was just going to add to that we all know, those of us that are in the logistics industry, there is a large learning curve, to getting into this industry and really understanding the ins and outs. So trying to explain what we do to people that are not in logistics is hard, right? There's a whole new lexicon, there's new terms, right? So the fact that it's hard for a tech company to come into the space and create a TMS that will actually solve problems, because that tech company may not understand the problems. You have to have worked as a carrier, as a broker, as a hybrid, as a shipper. You have to have worked in it for 5-10 years before you can start to understand the kind of operating system that this company would need to use. So I think that's one of the reasons why there's not as many really good TMSs in this space, because the tech companies, it's a hurdle to just understand everything that the operating system needs.